I do want to preface the whole thing by saying that my story is not unique, that my story is very much the same story that every addict and alcoholic has out there. The details of all of our stories may change, but the underlying emotional turmoil that we all go through remains the same. I mean, this is the same story, the same emotions attached to my story are felt by addicts and alcoholics everywhere in the world. So by no means is my story unique, but I will tell the details. I was raised, I mean, so I'm out in Canada, just outside of Toronto, Ontario. And I was raised in a household that I always describe it as a don't ask, don't tell type of household. So that meaning that everything that happened behind closed doors, I was told keep it behind closed doors. So, don't share our family business with any of the neighbors. Don't talk about what happens in our household. We make it look good for everyone on the outside because that's just what we do. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, there was a lot of emotional, verbal, and sometimes physical abuse in the household. My mom struggled deeply and still does to this day with her mental health. So she was the type of mother that really, I believe that really wanted to love my brother and I, but she had her own demons, and we didn't know which version of my mother we were going to get from, honestly, from minute to minute. So, it could be going great, and then we turn our heads towards the TV and we turn back at her, and she's a totally different person. She's very it was very kind of hit or miss which version we were going to get. So I feel like at an early age, I felt like I was always walking on eggshells in my household. So really like plagued with anxiety and fear. Again, I mentioned that there was physical abuse in the house. So anytime I did anything wrong, it was always, there was a reprimand attached to it. And so I feared disappointing my parents, and I didn't know how to act so that they would approve of me. And I felt that every time I tried, um, I would fail, and therefore I would receive that reprimand. My childhood was full of fear, full of anxiety, full of loneliness. You know, I was I was always told not to talk about what goes on in the household as well as how I feel about what goes on in the household. So at an early age, this idea of like, bottle up your feelings and don't share about how you're feeling, just kind of like, I would hear terms like, walk it off, be a man, these type of things. And uh, you know, I I I had a lot of resentments, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame that I was harboring. And I really didn't know what to do with it because I couldn't express it to anybody for fear of, embarrassing my family or going against what my parents had told me. When I was 7 years old, I had an experience of sexual abuse from a female caregiver of mine. And that was really, I mean, to add to what was going on at home, that was really the moment that I think my childhood ended. I was 7 years old. I didn't know what happened, but I certainly knew that it wasn't right. I didn't know how to make sense of it. But again, this female caregiver told me, this is our secret. You don't tell anybody about this. This is between you and I. So again, I'm having this message kind of echoed back into my ear that, you can't share about this. You can't talk about this. This is between you and I. This is our little secret. Um, and so I felt I became very withdrawn from my friends. I wasn't able to bring friends over to my household because I didn't, I was scared of what they might see. But I did notice that whenever I went to another friend's house, I felt something different in their house. I felt like a cohesive, loving family unit that I had never experienced before because that just wasn't the case at my house. My house was a cold environment. It was a scary environment. Um, and I didn't understand it, but I knew I liked it. I knew I liked the way it felt. So I would go to friends' houses and just never want to come home. And then when I did, I'd be back to my own sort of personal hell. And for a while, up until age like 12, I found myself, I found an escape in music. I was listening to a lot of like, I liked a lot of punk rock and hardcore back then. And, you know, I liked, I liked where the music took me. It allowed me to escape my current reality. And because at that point, I didn't have anything else. I had a wild imagination, but music took me somewhere else. And for me, um, I was able to find community in music. There was other people that was into the same type of music. I was able to like have commonalities with people. A lot of the people that like the same kind of music as me were coming from households that were not so functional as well. So there was something there that was bonding us. Um, so that was my escape for a number of years until at about 13 years old, I found alcohol. And, I went to a party. I was offered a drink. And with that first drink, I felt a sense of ease like none other. I felt all my fears, all my anxieties, all my shame, my remorse, everything that I was running from. I just felt it all wash away with that first drink. And the more I drank that night, the better I felt. And for me, I always kind of make this point that the first time I drank, I drank until blackout. I don't remember a large portion of that night. And I say that because I didn't drink myself into becoming an alcoholic. I drank alcoholically from the get-go. So my my only reason for drinking alcohol was to escape what was going on in my life at the time. I didn't particularly love the taste of it. I didn't, it was all for effect. And that became my number one escape. And what I found the next morning when I woke up, I didn't know what happened, but I had people around me. I had friends laughing and joking, telling me that I was a great time, that, inviting me to another party. And I just felt like, wow, these are my people, and this is my new identity. If I can drink that like magic elixir and have all my problems washed away, and I get people around me, I had attention from females, which I wasn't getting prior to that. Older kids were inviting me to their parties. They thought I was like, I was a crazy little kid, so they thought I was funny, and I felt part of something for once in my life.
Mm.
Um, and that quickly snowballed. So that was a couple years before high school, I guess. And by the time I hit high school, I had been like drinking, and other drugs had been introduced to me from these older kids. Um, I it snowballed very quickly, and what originally brought me a lot of community, friendship, and what I found to be stability and escape at the time started to kind of like work against me. By the time by the time I was 17 years old, I was already, as almost a daily cocaine user. I was definitely a daily drinker. I was I had pushed away a lot of people that were good people in my life because I didn't think that they were like me. And the friends that I was seeking out were people that were just like me. They were getting into a lot of trouble. I was doing things I shouldn't be doing with people I shouldn't be with. We were having to, steal, rob places, people, whatever we could for money so we could go get more alcohol, more drugs. It was always, we were constantly in search for more, more of the substance, more of the escape. And I found that a lot of my friends were just stepping away from me and saying, like, I used to go to a party and people were all excited for me to be there, like, oh, he's here. And then, it quickly changed to this, like, oh, he's here. The attitude and the mood changed around me, where I became a bit of a problem and a liability for people. And I felt that I felt that I felt that community leaving me, and I was terrified. So I had an opportunity to go out to New Zealand actually for a couple months, and I thought, perfect. This is an opportunity to, I left school for a semester, and I said, At 17 years old, that was an opportunity of a lifetime. Fly to the other side of the earth. And I thought to myself, this is perfect. I can reinvent myself. I can go as far away as I can from my problem, and I can just be Chris. I don't have to be Chris the alcoholic, Chris the drug addict, Chris the criminal, Chris the problem. And kind of as the saying goes, we can't outrun our problems, and we just take our problems with us wherever we go. So, I found people that were just like me, doing the same things that I was doing everywhere I went. So even on the other side of the planet, I couldn't outrun my issues. Um, so I came back to Canada. I went back to school, but I was like, I was there one day a week, oftentimes just to sell or buy drugs. It was just, I became an IV user at about 18 years old.
Wow.
Um, yeah, yeah, it was like I said, it escalated very quickly. And I can remember being 18 or 19 years old and having this feeling of like, what happened to me? And I knew that I was an alcoholic. I knew I was a drug addict. I could laugh and joke about it. I would say it, but I was terrified to say I need help because of it.